Wonderful human beings, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Remy and I share lots of vegan content and tips to help you live well. And one thing that you'll learn about me very quickly is that I love my matcha. I basically start every single morning with a mug of matcha, and as somebody who is part Japanese, I grew up drinking matcha and really love the flavor. It's a little bit bitter, but nowhere near as bitter as coffee, and it actually pairs really nicely with a lot of other ingredients. So in my last matcha video, I shared a week full of matcha drink recipes, things that are a little bit more out of the box than your average matcha latte, for example. And then in today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 more recipes that are actually food related. So these will be really fun recipes and ways to get creative with your matcha. I will link all of the recipes that I can in the description box below, as well as my favorite ceremonial grade matcha powder. As always, if you can, do sift your matcha beforehand so you end up with fewer clumps in the dish. And without further ado, let's get into the recipes. We're starting simple with some matcha pancakes. This is one of the easiest ways to incorporate matcha into a recipe because all you need to do is sift in matcha to your favorite pancake recipe. You could even use a pancake mix and just add the matcha in for color and flavor, but I definitely recommend the chickpea flour pancake recipe on my blog or the spinach matcha pancake recipe. Sounds a little bit funky, but the spinach adds a really beautiful and bold green, which can sometimes get a little bit lost with just matcha, because the thing about matcha is it's pretty delicate when you're cooking with it, and sometimes the color can almost disappear or become kind of a yellowy green. Anyways, this is a really great way to enjoy matcha for breakfast. Our next breakfast recipe is oatmeal, and I love this one because just like the pancakes, it's also quite simple. I start off with my regular oatmeal base with rolled oats, ground flax seeds for omega-3s, a little bit of vanilla extract, and a pinch of salt. Then I just go ahead and whisk in my matcha, of course, and this is again to remove the clumps, which is really important actually with oatmeal. I find that sometimes the clumps are hard to remove. I also decided to add some vanilla plant protein powder and a splash of soy milk for flavor. Cook your oatmeal as you normally would. I like to bring it to a boil and then down to a low simmer until I achieve the texture that I like. Then you can go ahead and get creative with your toppings. I use some bananas sliced up really nicely, along with some buckwheat groats and also some sliced almonds for texture. This next recipe is really great for breakfast, but also for an anytime snack or even dessert. It's from my Morning Light ebook, and it is a matcha streusel muffin. So I blended up some gluten-free flours along with some liquid ingredients like vanilla extract, plant milk, apple cider vinegar, and a couple of other ingredients for lift. And then I went ahead and of course sifted in my matcha powder. Now in this recipe, you'll kind of see what I mean about the color fading a little bit. It's not super noticeable, but we'll definitely make up for it at the end. For you guys, ice cream scoops are the easiest way to fill muffin liners. So here I'm mixing up the streusel mixture, which basically becomes this really delicious, buttery, crunchy topping on top of the muffin. Best part in my opinion. And then I just sprinkle a little bit on top of every single muffin tin. And this is where we're adding back in the matcha green. So after baking, I just like to dust a little bit over top of each muffin and enjoy. Now we're going to move on to one of my favorite snacks lately, matcha dusted almonds. I'm going to show you 2 different ways to make this because I was kind of experimenting and both of the methods I tried actually worked really well. So we start off by roasting our almonds and meanwhile melting down some vegan dark chocolate. You could use a microwave or you could do a double boiler method, and then dump in your roasted almonds right into the melted chocolate and let them go for a little swim, get them all nice and evenly coated. And this is the tedious part, but you want to use 2 forks and get as much excess chocolate off the almonds as possible, then lay them on a piece of parchment paper to chill either outside on the counter or in the fridge. Once they're cool and fully dry, you want to sift some matcha powder over top and then just give them a nice little toss. This is very similar to cocoa dusted almonds, except it's matcha and it's actually so delicious and addictive. Method 2 is a little bit more similar to a candied nut, and this is really great if you're not a fan of chocolate because we're using maple syrup, vanilla extract, and a pinch of salt to become our glaze. And if you've ever visited New York or if you live here, you may know what Nuts for Nuts is. It kind of smells like that, and it reminds me of the holidays. It's really one of the best smells there is. But anyway, we're gonna coat our almonds in that mixture and then lay them out on a parchment paper and bake them for just about 5 minutes, just to kind of get that glaze really nice and caramelized. This one is a little bit more tricky because I feel like it requires more time and patience to wait for the glaze to fully set. But about halfway through, when the almonds are still tacky, you just want to give them a generous dusting of the matcha powder and then wait for them to fully cool. And you'll end up with a very similar result, but no chocolate involved. For this last recipe, I took inspiration from my best healthy chocolate chip cookies. You may have seen that video on my YouTube channel, and the recipe is on my blog. Instead of almond butter though, I opted for cashew butter because I wanted to see if I could preserve a little bit more of that matcha color, but using coconut sugar and maple syrup, which are a little bit darker, kind of makes that difficult. Anyways, I added in my flax egg and gave all of my ingredients a good stir. Then I added the dry ingredients like my oat flour and almond flour, and then most importantly, the matcha powder. I also added some baking soda and baking powder per the recipe and gave everything a really good mix. And for toppings, I decided that I would do something a little bit different from the standard chocolate chips. I went for pistachios because I thought the color would be really beautiful, and also some vegan white chocolate chips. We're gonna end off with a bonus recipe for matcha white hot chocolate. Now, this one is great for the holiday season. I feel like it's really cozy and decadent, and all you need to do is melt down some vegan white chocolate chips into whatever plant milk that you're using, bring it to a low bubble and whisk over the stove, then pour it into whatever cup you're using, prepare your matcha as per usual, and then pour it over top of the milk. Last but certainly not least, plop in a vegan marshmallow and enjoy. Alright friends, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you try out any of the recipes, don't forget to share with me on Instagram. You can tag me at Veggiekins or use the hashtag Veggiekins. And as a reminder, I will link the recipes in the description below along with my favorite matcha powder. Alright, I will see you in another video soon. Bye!